Welcome back, everybody. This is the Cartoon Pad. I'm Bob Eckstein. Hi, Marty.
Hi, Bob.
How's that?
That's a good Bob. That's a good Bob impression.
You know.
Thank you, everyone.
I think you need a little bit more Bronx accent.
I don't listen
in
to
there.
the accent, but I do an excellent Canadian accent.
Welcome to the Cartoon Pad, Michael Shaw, and I'm here. You're normally a producer, Marty from Weekly Humorist. Bob is out today because he has so many deadlines that he's not allowed to leave his basement. His publishers have chained him to his desk, and he's not allowed to leave until he's finished. I think it's like he's like 45 more paintings to do.
Yes.
By like next week. And every time you check in with Bob, he's like, everything's going great. I only have 86 more full color paintings to do, and then I'll be able to leave the house. Like the number is going up every time you check in with.
Yes. And I understand it's a book about my favorite cartoons that I have painted as painting.
No, it's a book about your favorite. It's the favorite museums around the world, and it's a really cool book. And it's going to be coming out at some point in the near future. But he has to get all these paintings in, and he's literally painting like every single museum in the world for this book. And it's just, I think it was a huge project. It is a huge project, but it looks great. The paintings I've seen look wonderful. So good luck to Bob and the book. He will be back on the podcast soon. But we wanted to have our guest today on just because there was so much stuff happening, and we wanted to talk to him about it, and we want to talk about his new book that he has coming out, and he's such a great cartoonist. But you know, Shaw, what well, first I want to talk to you, Shaw, about your cartoons. What's happening?
Life is happening.
Have you been getting your stuff to Emma? Have you been getting your stuff out?
Do I have to do anything? Can't I just be?
No, you have to. The only way that you guys
I have
forward.
cartoons coming up in the magazine that will not be named, but I guess it rhymes with high standards. American High Standards. I know.
Oh, the American Bystander. Sure, yeah. I thought you were talking about like High Times for some reason when you were.
It's High Times. It's High Times. I was high. Thank you. Excuse me.
Okay. Have you been? You've been around the block, Shaw. Were you ever?
I've been down the fucking block and down the sewer and back up again.
Were you ever a pot user? Were you ever one of those smoking the wacky?
I was more of the dysphoric type. I mean, if it didn't sit well with me.
Okay. But you enjoy a good beer. You're a beer guy.
I try to only drink to excess. Yes. I'm a fine Irish lad, so what else you got to do?
So you're back on the schedule with
I am
with the submission. You've been doing the submissions. You've been doing the New Yorker submissions. You're in the Bystander submissions. Yes. You toss the Weekly Humorist
cartoon.
I know you toss Weekly Humorist the scraps, and I run them up. I have one for tomorrow. I think I'll be running this. I'll run one on Friday. Yeah.
But you really, I'm more fascinated in this broadcast about your vast stable of creativity that you publish as a book publisher, because that's kind of a lost art.
Man, and I know why people don't do it anymore, because it is a pain. It is such a pain in the butt, but it is fun. I definitely am learning as I'm doing, and it's been exciting. To publish books and humor novels and cartoon collections and gift books and, humorous children's books and just so many different things, and get to meet so many different people. And, I'm so lucky to have so many creative, funny people that have written for Weekly Humorist and kind of stay in this humorous, the talent pool that I've been able to connect with all these great people. And I just keep on putting out these books. People keep on reaching out, and they keep on having book projects. And I'm like, okay. And I think only because people keep sending me stuff, I keep publishing books and doing stuff.
I want to send you some more stuff. I think it's time for, to try that again, to try that art.
Well, you and Bob put out The Elements of Stress, which I have around here someplace, which is a great.
It's keeping the table level.
I got it. I got it right here.
No, there it is. I told you.
This is the Elements of Stress.
That's the early first edition.
Yeah, this was the earlier one. This is the earlier one without all the added bonus features. But this was like the first. This may have been. Yeah, this was like a very early one.
So
this is a great book that we're going to do a sequel to because people are always stressed and they need stress relief. So this was a great book. And
I'm thinking future stress. I want to go into stress of the future. I want to bypass today's stress and go straight to the year 2525.
Okay. I like that.
I'm working on that.
Like a sci-fi future stress.
Yes, exactly. Like a dystopic memoir of a utopian future past.
Like if you think finding parking is hard, just wait until the alien race that enslaves you wants to eat your kidneys.
Exactly. And even in the year 2525, Australia will already know what you've done because they're 24 hours ahead of you.
It's a good point.
Think about that one.
That's very sharp thinking, Shaw.
Thank you.
Well, I'm excited for today's guest that you get to meet him, Shaw, because he's a fabulous cartoonist. And he is, I feel, kind of similar to, your very loose style of drawing. I feel like he has that kind of loose fluidity, that artistic fluidity of humor and feeling in his work. And I've known him since I was running things for National Lampoon's magazine in its final throes. And I think he was just starting his career when I first got to publish him. And now he has been he was a National Lampoon. He's an American Bystander. He does amazing comics. He has a bunch of books out. One's The Fish That Ruined Everything, and he has a series of...
I like that.
He has a series of books through Humorist Books featuring these three demons, Beezle, Buzzle, and Barb. Those books started with a great one called 7 Easy Steps to Go to Hell, and then we had one called Curses for Christmas, and the one that just came out is called The History of Human Achievement, a Beezle, Buzzle, and Barb book by our guest today, Mr. Brandon Hicks. Hello, Brandon Hicks. Welcome to the Cartoon Pen.
Thank you.
Hailing from Canada, joining us from just off the border of Maine. He can see Maine out his window, but he gets his free health care.
Yes,
up in
but don't tell us the town because I'm going to guess. So, Brandon, could you say hello and let me guess? Because I'm pretty good with accents.
Hello.
It's too short.
Dildo, Newfoundland.
Hey, that's it.
Hey, wait, Crotch Lake, Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Are my favorite.
The adolescents.
Head smashed in Buffalo Jump, Alberta.
Is there a place called Dildo, Newfoundland?
Yep, there is.
Really?
They have some brothers from Newfoundland. But...
They haven't changed that yet? They had there's a town in, I don't know where it is. I just saw a news story that they finally changed the town. It was called like Fuckery or something. And they just changed it recently.
Well, they call it New Fuckery. They just, or Saints Fuckery.
New Fuckery. That's great. Well, Brandon Hicks, I'm so happy to have you on the Cartoon Pad because I've enjoyed your cartoons and your comics for a very long time. You are a great artist, and you are also a really talented film director and animator. And I've seen, you do animations, and you've made little movies, and you do kind of everything. You're directing, you're doing special effects, you're doing voices, you're doing, camera, you're doing everything. You just do everything up there. You get it all done. You're a very creative guy.
Oh, thank you.
And,
well, like you were saying before, one of the first, I've always been kind of doing this stuff sort of, but here in New Brunswick, there's not much venue for it. And when I was in university, I was doing stuff for the school paper and huge fan of National Lampoon and Mad Magazine and everything. So when I saw that National Lampoon was existing in the state that it did, I sent my first big batch of cartoons. I wrote 10 cartoons and I sent them to you, and I sent them to American Bystander, and I sold 8 of the 10. Wow. And that's never happened again. ever.
It shouldn't have happened in the first place.
No, it really shouldn't have.
Was one of the jokes, was it was like instead of Jack in the Box, it was Jack off the box?
Yeah, it was. I was 19.
I love that cartoon. That cartoon is so dirty. It is so dirty. It is so dirty. I'll describe the cartoon.
Yeah.
So it is, instead of a Jack in the Box, it is a Jack in the Box, only there's like a penis sticking out of it. And it's called a Jack off the box. And there is a thanks. I didn't know we had sound effects. This is great.
You used to have what happened to them?
I need to it's in the other room. I should have had I have like a little dum-dum zings and boom iPad sound effects thing. But it was a very dirty cartoon, and it was very funny because you draw in such a sweet, innocent fashion that you can kind of get away with a lot, right? Because you're drawing it in such a fun way, you can draw something. And the way that you draw stuff, it's not like obvious. So it's like a dirty joke, but it's not hitting you over the head. You have to kind of look at it and you're like, huh, that's cute. Oh, that's terrible.
It was so badly you had to actually look at it to actually get the job. So if you get the joke, then it's already too late. You're kind of complicit.
Yeah, exactly.
Brandon, I've always been a bad cartoonist. As Mankoff told me, there are good cartoonists and good bad cartoonists. You're a good bad cartoonist. So me too. And they said, don't try to draw better. You'll just ruin it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's kind of been the case. The more I draw, the more relaxed I am doing it. And my style over the years really developed in that way where it's like I take a quarter of the time I used to draw a cartoon and I like it way better. It looks like a splash of ink on.
Well, I describe your style as like you're drawing it while someone's trying to take the paper away from you.
Yeah.
So it's very Cypress-like, but it's even a little. He always struck me as a standard bearer for what I would call the abstract expressionist style, the gestural. But you're kind of a de Kooning, and your stuff it's like they're melting.
Yeah. Well, do you want to get into the weeds about like inspirations and stuff? I mean, like I do like that thick line style, the Lee Lorenz. But I also always, because I had no art training. It's my recent journalism. I didn't really take drawing seriously until I sold that first batch of cartoons. I always wanted to be a comedy writer or something adjacent to comedy. But drawing was never the main thing. But it's become that for me. And I was always drawn to people who like, the first you see it, it's really, I could do that. But it's all more complicated than you think. The Jules Pfeiffers, Shel Silverstein's a big one for that.
Yeah.
Those are definitely the kinds of things that I gravitate towards. Or it's like, if I, get a bit of skill set, I can at least make it coherent.
Well, yeah, that's why Thurber was the guy for me, because I looked at his stuff. I was 10 years old and I go, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And he's in a book. That's for me. And then I came to find out he was like a neurotic, blind drunk. And I go, he's perfect. He's my guy.
Yeah, what I like about Thurber too is his style like really emphasizes his humor. It's almost as a piece. And not so much the written ones, but the cartoons are just like bizarre. Like the one about the woman on top of the shelf, and he's like, this is it's like just a bizarre idea that it was drawn any better would be horrific. But because it just slapdash by again.
There's a great story that Harold Ross said. I'll do my Harold Ross. He goes, what the hell is that woman doing up there? He goes, that's his first wife. What's she doing up there? He goes, she's dead. He goes, then did he kill her? I've got this all wrong. And then he ends up saying, you got me there. But he used to go in, since he was an editor, he'd go in and okay his own work.
Okay.
So he'd go put a little okay on it. And they go, it must be okay. Got an okay on it. So anyway.
Well, that's what's great about comics too, is that like back in the 1920s, Thurber and like Peter Arno could exist like just one page apart. Like it's kind of insane. Just the quality and the level of art. Like it's both very funny, but in completely different ways.
I feel Weekly Humorist is much like that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Marty?
I would agree that I have a wide variety of humor types in one place.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of, there's a very specific voice that everyone sounds like in McSweeney's, and it's very funny, and it's very cutting, and it's very smart, but it all sounds very similar, right? And then there's the New Yorker, kind of the same, right? So it's kind of that same tone always. And with Weekly Humorist, I'm just like, if I think it's funny, it can go in. It doesn't have to fit a certain tone. It doesn't have to fit a certain anything. As long as it brings some jokes, I think, and it has a solid enough premise,
That's true, because
welcome it.
I'll email Marty. I said, what the hell's going on with this cartoon where this guy with the fedora is trying to hit a golf ball at trees, and the trees are all covering in their crotch?
It's so funny.
Point. And you go like, it's funny.
It's funny.
Well, you got to prioritize that, because again, we talked about like McSweeney's. That's like, you read a McSweeney's article, it's a wry smile.
Yeah.
You read a New Yorker piece, it's like a upper class chortle. But Weekly Humorist, you laugh.
Thank you. Look at that. That is something that I'm going to put. If there was a box that I could put it on, I would put that. I'll put that on just like an Instagram story, and it'll Brandon Hicks.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is funny because the trees. It's pretending that the trees have genitals, Shaw, and they don't want to get hit in the nuts with the golf ball. Okay.
Oh, now I get it.
Always.
I thought it was some sort of Dutch elm disease that caused their limbs to.
No, they're covering up their nuts. Okay, getting hit in the nuts with a golf ball, very painful. I got hit in the back with a golf ball once. So I was playing golf, and someone on the driving range side hit a golf ball, and it went through the net that was the barrier. There's a big barrier, and someone hit this golf ball, and I'm way over here like putting, and I get hit in the back with a like a line drive golf ball.
Marty,
you yell.
They didn't yell 4. They didn't yell 5. They didn't yell anything.
Well, why would you yell 4 if you didn't think it was going to go through the net?
Of course, they shouldn't have yelled anything. They had no idea. But yeah,
I just want to say I know now why Bob won't let you talk.
Why? Because I'm too interesting.
It's funny.
Brendan R. Hicks. You have a very funny. The funny thing about actually the book series that we have with Humorist Books with your 3 demons, and the fun thing about these books is the system of the humor. When we first started doing these books, the way that you've been able to kind of create the joke reveal. I don't know if you got a chance to read any of the stuff that I sent you.
I have read some of it. Yeah.
You've read some of it. That's good. But people who are not familiar...
I just have to say, I am impressed that you can cover the history of human achievement in 38 pages, because with pictures.
Shaw didn't get to go to this, and I didn't get to go to this because I was out of town. But Brandon just came back from New York City because he went to the Rubin Awards.
Oh, my.
Big New York trip. Mm-hmm. He met all the people.
Yeah. We met Kathy, of course, Jim Davis of Garfield, all my mad heroes, most of my mad heroes, fortunately people that can make it, like Sergio Aragones, who was dying to meet, but, his family keeps him at home, rightly to keep him safe. And yeah, no, we...
you met Johnny Sampson?
Yes, Johnny Sampson, who actually wrote the letter of recommendation to get me in. So big thanks to him. And super friendly. In fact, the whole thing was like, I wasn't sure what the vibe would be as my first Rubens. I've been with them since 2020, but something else happened that year that kind of prevented me from doing anything in person.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a year. It was our first big trip really outside Canada. I mean, we crossed the border for groceries, but it's the first big trip we made since COVID. And so we kind of did way too much. Within like a 3-day period, we did the Met, the MoMA, Broadway, got yelled at on the street, fought some rats on Subway.
They weren't yelling at you. So
the rats are big. Like, it's so funny that people, people are always like, New York City rats, blah, blah, blah. I went to the Comedy Cellar last night to see a friend of mine do comedy, and I was just walking to the train, And it's like the rats, I don't know if they're on steroids or something, or they got into the whey protein. They've gotten even bigger recently. Like this rat was bigger than a squirrel. Like I was like, are they mating with the possums or something? Because these are some big rats. We've got them.
Did he have a luxurious shiny coat?
Not afraid of me at all. Like it was just like walking on the sidewalk, and I'm just like, are you taking the D train too? So maybe.
So what, Brandon? What theater experience did you have?
We would see Book of Mormon.
So that was really good choice.
I want to see that since 2011, and last time I was in New York was 2010. So like, perfect timing aligned. Rebecca and I went to see that, and we kind of wanted to go to some others, but that was kind of timed out. It was a little bit too much as it was. But Book of Mormon is incredible. It's still funny, still holds up. I'm a huge South Park fan, so that's kind of what drew me to it. And I've heard the soundtrack, but never actually see the story together. All the jokes actually in a cohesive way. So
it's a great show. It delivers. Yeah. It's great songs. And I feel like you, on the outside of it, you're like, are they, making fun of Mormons? Does that mean? And then you see the show and you're like, that's actually really like a sweet, funny show.
Well, yeah, that's my impression too. Because again, you never know. Like, it came out like 12 years ago, and a lot has happened in terms of the themes that are in the play, like racial stuff, and it takes place in Uganda, but it's not as bad as I feared. It's people are treated with respect. They're not dumb. They know what's up. It's really
yeah. You should have seen Wicked. It's
Wicked is great.
I was supposed to see Wicked in 2010. That's the only other time I've been in New York, was during my high school trip in like 2010. And we were supposed to be Wicked. That's what we signed up to see. We get there and they didn't buy tickets. So we went to see American Idiot, the Green Day musical, which is not the same.
No, it is not.
I mean, Green Day is great now, whatever, I'm sure it's fine. But it was not Wicked.
Dookie. It was a big album when I was a kid. I love that Green Day. Yeah, but Wicked is great. I just saw Wicked.
Cool.
I saw Wicked right when it opened with the original cast, and then I saw it fairly recently when my sister and her kids came to visit. And it held up. It was great, and like the themes of it held up even like more so. Like politically, it has a lot to say in the show. That's sort of like the different good and evil and all this stuff. And it's kind of like, that actually still plays very well. Like it's a very interesting show because it still worked fine. I guess, Shaw, you've seen Wicked if you're promoting Wicked.
Oh yeah, but I didn't see it on Broadway. I saw the traveling show, and the traveling shows are only as good as the talent.
Oh yeah, by far.
Because I saw Rent on Broadway, which was great. Then I saw the traveling show, and it was like, oh Lord, I wish anyway.
Well,
but the first Broadway show I ever saw was, and they go, Michael, you pick the show. I go, Arsenic and Old Lace.
Okay.
Starring, are you ready for this? The part that Cary Grant played, Gary Sandy from WKRP in Cincinnati.
Okay.
With Marion Ross from Happy Days and the comedic genius of Larry Storch.
You're not dating yourself at all, Shaw.
Not at all. But who would not want to go see that?
Seems very fresh.
Who played the Karloff role?
For 1980, it was.
It's good. It's good.
Then I saw Debbie Harry on New Year's Eve at the 4D Club coming out with her big hit single, French Kissing in the USA. She sang one song and left.
Going down memory lane with Shaw.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting.
The Cabot, Frank Sinatra.
I did see Tony Bennett and almost got ran over by David Burns, if that counts.
Okay.
There we go.
Brandon, Nick, when you're doing your drawing, I'm going to ask you about your style and stuff like that, because you are not a professionally trained artist, and then you started doing cartoons. And so are you an iPad, Apple Pencil person? Or
And now, but that's partially your doing, because when I first pitched this book, I was still drawing primarily on paper. And I was doing a few little projects. I was coloring. Like I have a couple things on the Weekly Humorist early on, that like early edition that looks really bad now to me. But I was kind of figuring it out. So the first book was a real quality test. see. So that was the first thing. I'm like, well, it has to look like color digitally, it has to look professional, it has to. So that was the first thing I did completely digitally, the first project.
So that's all like Procreate?
It's all on Procreate, yeah. $8, best money I've ever spent.
I agree. I love that Procreate. I got the Apple iPad with the Apple Pencil finally after, I always did like, oil on paper is kind of what I always did for illustration. I went to school for illustration. I always worked like on Masonite, like the heaviest thing you could possibly think of. It was such a process though. Like I would get this Masonite and then I would gesso it and then I'd sand it and then I'd gesso it, then I'd sand it, then I'd tape it. And then I would do this like incredibly involved illustration I would be either doing I would do oils or like this tempera wash with Prismacolors. Like it was so laborious. And it looked great.
What you're talking about.
It looked great.
Super cheap about no matter what it is. If you've seen my films, you can attest to that. So I was always just using like ballpoint pens, Crayola watercolor.
Well, Marty,
it was my primary method.
Marty, I think Jasper Johns used the same techniques when he was,
Exactly. And it makes sense for people like Jasper Johns or any of these guys who were selling like wall-sized art for millions of dollars, not some Yahoo illustration kid doing caricature paintings of Conan O'Brien for a portfolio to send to Mad Magazine. Like, I have them stacked in my parents. My poor parents are housing these stacks of Masonite, and they're like, "Can we get rid of this?" I'm like, "You can never get rid of my art." Like,
don't worry, they're all stuck together now.
Oh, probably. No, I have not. I have like the vellum.
Oh, thank God.
Taped on. Oh yeah, it's great.
So I want to know. Sorry, I want to know with Brandon. What was your journalism degree in?
Well, journalism and communications. I went to St. Thomas University, which is a small university here in New Brunswick, Canada. But in high school, I did a radio show. It was a college radio, but it was just like a high school group. And then one of the episodes I wrote got a journalism award, a scholarship and stuff. So
wow,
17 or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, I guess that's what I'll do. Journalism.
The fates had pointed you in that direction.
Well, I mean, I always wanted to do writing or comedy or something. And it's like, well, that's not really a job, but journalism kind of is. At least it was in 20.
Kind of is.
So I was like, oh yeah, no, that's actually where they make money, right?
No, you don't. I have a master's degree from the University of Missouri Columbia, the world's first journalism school.
Oh, really?
And now I'm still stuck in a basement in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. So go figure that one out.
Well, yeah.
So you guys are both kind of out further away. And do you think that being out further away, how does that affect your art? Because you get to be a little bit more detached. Do you get more peace to be creative, or is it better? Is it better for your creativity to be just kind of away?
Well, having been in New York like last week, absolutely. I've never felt less creative than I was in that high stress situation, jumping place to place. Plus, there's just so many great New Yorker cartoonists that like I had like a few comics I made just right after the trip, and it's like trying to get over content that hasn't been done before by other New Yorkers, like way better. So I'm much more comfortable in my like little milieu of small rural Canada.
I agree with that. I don't want to be overly influenced by anybody. In fact, I try not to look at too many other cartoons because I don't want, I don't know. I just, it's like that water might not taste good. I don't know. I don't want to be infected by people with more talent or who are funnier. So there we go. So I have a question. Your style in your book is certainly far more evolved than your cartooning style. So what brought that decision?
Well, like I say, partially because it's digital, and also the changes in how I draw in general. Like I think I pitched the first book. Like this has been the whole back half of my 20s. I think I pitched the book. I was 25, and I'm turning 30 in December. So like just a lot of years have elapsed. So when I started, that was closer to how I drew. Is I was trying to I couldn't draw well, but I was really trying. I was trying to learn principles of like all the animation books I could find, all the little drawing tips, and learning perspective. But when I have like a funny idea, I don't really care to do that anymore. I'm more of a volume guy now. So in the time that's elapsed, I mean, I just do like quick sketches. And I think they look better. I've done like some live draws at concerts. I think it's more naturally me. But because I'm still doing this series, I try and go back to that style a little bit for the past 2 books since. It was most difficult with this last one because like I really wanted to look as good as I can. And again, it wasn't the style that I had been drawing in so much for 2 years. So kind of the slow pencil process. I went, with the red pencil and get everything organized, put the perspective in correctly, and then inked it or digitally inked it. So it's a long, laborious process. I'm working on another book right now that is more my current style, and I'm just zipping through pages. And it's, it's different. It's still kind of fun to go back and forth because I think this book makes me a better artist because I have to put the effort in. But I certainly enjoy the way I draw now a little more.
I love the detail though that you put into the books. Like it's so like you keep your natural kind of flowy style when it comes to the characters and the forms and the anatomy and that kind of stuff is very like kind of mushy and silly and fun. But then all of the world, like the actual system, of the landscape and the mechanics of the pieces that are in the background is all like so tight and well drawn.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I gotta give you some serious credit because early on we were talking about what these books could be. You had picked up on these paper towel cartoons I was doing called Soakers at the time.
Right, the Soakers.
Early 2020, I started doing these cartoons. I saw this TikTok where somebody did like a sexist, dumb joke where they said he on one side of the paper towel he wrote like "Will you ma," and then he brings his girlfriend in, drops it in water, and when it goes out, it says "Will you make me a sandwich?" And she was upset. It's not a great joke, but I said, "Oh, cartooning." So I started putting like the punchline on one side, and on the other side, the setup and the punchline on the other side. And then when I put in the water, the full joke would appear. I was doing this for about 2 months, and then COVID hit, and suddenly paper towel was a lot higher demand. So when we were talking about what to do for a book, he said, "Well, it's something with that, like something that's like that format, but a book."
Yeah, we were like, we want something like the Soakers. Like, how can you do a setup and a punchline in a book? And we were like, can we make it a pop-up book? And economically, I'm like, there's no way we can do the pop-up book. So how can we sort of do it?
I even thought like holding up to the sun and seeing the joke.
Yeah. We had a thing where it was going to be like you had to hold up the pages, and like that's never going to work either. Like nothing was.
So you want a very tactical or tactile.
It was just.
So I've a question.
We showed it on one page was the setup, and he would do
right.
he would tee it up.
Right.
Have the beginning of a punchline on the right page, and then you flip the page, and then the left page was the same illustration, but then you saw the whole right side was the punchline. And it just flowed really well. And it kind of told this really kind of funny story. And I would love these books. We've sent them out, and I have pitches and stuff that have gone out to adapt them to be either a TV or a short special or something, because I think they're so adaptable and they're so funny. And Brendan actually did animated versions of these that we put out as holiday specials, which is a lot of fun. We did a Halloween special one and a Christmas special. And they're voiced by this guy that like does these classic, he's like this storybook, like British, old school, like kids book narrator. And he does the books really, like he does everything. He's not a comedy person. He does real storybooks that are like for real,
He plays it totally straight. Yeah.
And then I sent him our stuff, and he's like, this is very funny. I understand the humor. And he recorded them, and he does them great, and it's so funny.
Yeah,
his name Peter Walters. Peter Walters. It's great.
So when I first saw it, I actually did think it was for kids.
I get that a lot. I get that because I bring them to like festivals and stuff, or it's kind of hard to explain, and it's not like not for kids.
No, I get that. I'm on page 5, and I go, are those testicles hanging from that little hook?
Yeah.
you know. Um, I was wondering the setup of showing the same illustration twice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever quite seen that before. Is that just, what was the thinking with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, by virtue of just trying to get that formatting, like you said, like we wanted to have it. The joke works when you see the first half, you get like the concept of it, and then you open it up, and it like usually turns on its head or whatever. The first book, I just had the same thing printed twice, but since then, that kind of bothered me. Like I didn't like having, the same image posted twice in the same book. Like, so I've kind of been putting fancier borders around it to help it make that expansion.
I like the fancy borders. I think it looks very nice.
Well, it's funny, the PDF I'm looking at kind of goes as a vertical slide.
Oh, so you don't get the effect.
Oh,
I don't, I'm not paying for the real thing. My God. I
sorry.
just go to Amazon and get the free peek at the first 2 pages and the last 2 pages.
So that works very well for this book.
Yeah, it does.
So is this a style you're going to stay with, or is this just an evolution adapted to this particular story?
Well, I think it's just this particular story because when we first discussed it, we wanted to have something that had that, like, the fun of those soccer cartoons and something that was a little different, because at this point, if you're going to go into print, you kind of have to do something that like doesn't exist in any other format.
Sure.
So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to do like some gift books with like high concept, and very much only works in the printed form, as the PDF shows that it does not work as well in that format. But so I mean, again, most of my work is digital. I've been doing that for most of my career, is primarily seen online, a few magazines here and there. So when I got a chance to do a book, and especially a book series, we wanted to do something that like really had a concept of like, oh yeah, these are those books that do that. And then also Marty, you suggested, like, you said, you kind of want to do something with that, and you wanted characters. You didn't give me any more than that. You said you wanted characters.
Yeah.
You wanted something that kind of had the fun of the soakers.
Yeah.
So I went into a park, and I sat down, I drew the characters up and came up with the concept for like all 3 of these books. And they're demons, which makes my grandmother not like it so much, but I think it does allow for me to do kind of anything with them. The first one is about 70 Steps to Go to Hell. So the bracket around it's like I had 35 pages for doing this format. So I have about 6 or 7 jokes. That's what I can do. And because they're demons, I'm like, well, we can do like 1 joke for each deadly sin. And then I was thinking of like, oh, wouldn't we could do a holiday book as well. So I took Christmas Carol and flipped that on its head. So instead of someone who hates Christmas having 3 angels come to visit him, it's someone who loves Christmas and has 3 demons come to visit him and tell him why it sucks.
Yeah, it's like she loves Christmas so much, and their job is to explain to her why she's been brainwashed by the industry and why Christmas is actually terrible, and all of her memories are false memories, and she's misremembering how happy she was during all of these holiday moments. And the book is just like destroying her life, just picking it apart.
Sounds like the perfect gift.
Oh yeah, really.
It is. It's really funny, and like the holidays, the animated special that Brandon is so funny, and it's just like it's great.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Morgan.
Yeah, it's perfect for the person who likes Christmas too much in your life.
Yes, these are things that I sent you links to, Shaw, that you were supposed to.
Well, I've tried not to be overly influenced.
I'm super funny, let me tell you. I can't believe this.
Oh boy, that is funny.
And then with this last one, I was like, well, I started doing ageless characters. They can kind of exist in any time period. So like, why not a history book? And like you were saying earlier, I thought it would be kind of funny to have like the entirety of human achievement boiled down into a 30-page book.
And it's great. I mean, you really, you jump around to major parts of human history, and I think, it has, it's done in a very good chronological way so that it makes sense, and it ends, with the end of the world where we're headed. It's a real truth bomb that we throw into people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So are you extending the franchise?
Well, I hope so. See how this one sells. I mean, that was kind of my initial idea. Like, just when I sat down, I had an idea for all 3 books. And since I haven't had one since, no, at the time, but, hey, maybe.
I love the characters and I love the style of the characters. I feel like, I could see an animated show with characters that look like this. I love the world that you made and draw in all these books.
Yeah. That's kind of more the direction I think I could see them going in, is because I created characters deliberately that could you could do anything with. They're less one format than they are characters I could.
So as I look at
online talk show, they could do like crazy cartoons. They could do a feature. They could do, they're kind of elastic that way.
it seems like Basil's the fun-loving one. Yeah. I think Barb should be this woman, and Buzzle should be the guy.
Sure.
Right? I've read that.
I think they have. I think they have names. I think they. Do we know which one's Barb?
Barb is the main one. She's the only one that's like kind of obviously female.
Yeah, she's the she. Shaw.
Oh, see,
It makes sense, Shaw.
Oh yeah, there's a whole mythology. I did put work into these books.
There's a whole world Brandon worked on here, Shaw. He's not just making this stuff up.
No, I'm sensing from my I also have a BFA in painting, which informed me that I had no talent for painting or drawing, so that's why I went into cartooning. But I have a sense of sort of a horror vacui approach, and a hint of Herminius Bush.
Oh yeah,
it feels like there was a time back then where people really believed this is what happened to you because there was no science to inform you otherwise. So the evil humors, you had to keep them at bay, and demons or evil spirits caused malady. So, I was buying it.
Yeah, it's funny because I never really believed much, and I'm not a very religious person myself. So to me, a lot of this hell and heaven stuff, it's all just joke fodder. And so I'm still a little surprised when people say like, "Oh, that's not really for kids," or "It's, that's not especially appropriate." I'm like, "Oh, really? It's cute." I don't know.
Yeah, you're like, actually, it's a great confirmation gift, for the kids. I was,
And having been raised Southern Baptist, I still believe all this stuff.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I mean, that stuff that's going down, man.
Well, I mean, I do kind of want it to it did want something that had a little bit of an edge to it. Like we aren't doing something specifically for kids or a picture book format. But I was hoping to do something that had like a little bite to it.
It'd make a fun coloring book too. They look at it.
Yeah, I thought of that. I mean,
we could do an activity book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I think that's kind of the directions that if it does continue as a series, it'll go into a lot of these weird areas that I think that basic page flip format can open up a lot of doors and do a lot of weird things around that, like activity books,
games, some sort of a game.
Connect the demon to his torment. Mm-hmm. You could have lines you could draw.
Yeah. I was recently reading these old Richard Scarry books. And I thought,
the busy world of Richard Scarry. Those are so good.
The busy world of Beast, Puzzle, and Bar, where it's like you get that sense. So I mean, if it does continue on, it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder until people stop paying attention.
Well, I mean, being a demon in hell is kind of like a workplace comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're coworkers and they're doing their jobs. So all of these books are basically plot points, possibly in a animated show where it's just them doing their demon work. This is all happening, and it's all just demon work.
I have actually had a few hellbound cartoons in the New Yorker. My last one was like two devils, and I guess they're devils or demons. And one's at the printer, and he says, "What gets saved in the cloud gets printed in hell." So it's just this giant stack. And then one of my favorites, which I don't know if I got this one published, but these people are being sent into hell, and the demon's at the end. He's got his pitchfork with marshmallows on it. He's going, "Who wants a s'more?"
Yeah, I mean,
I love it. Demons do a lot of shit.
I love s'mores. S'mores are delicious.
S'mores in hell.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to not do too many hell-based cartoons lately, just because like I'm a little afraid of being pigeonholed in it. Because I've done 3 books now about demons and hell, and I mean my poor mother, and like it just like but I just seem to go back to that well a lot. Like, I mean, I did a short film a couple of years ago called My Religious Family, which starts off with like drawing a story about growing up in a religious household, which was not true at all. But like it starts off because Christianity and ends up being this bizarre cult by the end of it. And at the end of the short, I get killed and blood splatters across the screen. But a lot of that hell-based humor was, really big for a while, and trying my best to kind of move away from it. But
Well, that's how Matt Groening got his start. Life and hell.
yeah, life and hell.
Sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
What is the book, The Fish That Ruined Everything, about? That is a novel.
It is about a fish that ruined everything. I got a grant by the local province to do a novel kind of set here, somewhat. So it's about a fish that decides it's going to go into the fishing business. It's an entrepreneur. It doesn't have any moral scruples. It's going to go into fishing, and then finds its way on land and teams up with a fisherman who has no success. He's a vegetarian, so he does not like fishing. And then they end up sending like help together. So not enough sequence of events, but that's a general book. It's supposed to be. It's just very joke heavy. I got right here.
Sounds like a cautionary tale.
The fish that ruined everything.
Everything.
And full of illustrations.
Oh, wow, nice.
I like those kind of. Now, those are the kind of books I kind of like, because they're like picture books. And is it for a 12-year-old? Is it for a 21-year-old? Who is it for?
I'm always
think like that.
Because that's the kind of stuff I like. I like. I big fan, especially growing up, of like Mad Magazine and The Simpsons, which are both like kid centric, but also like will get a little dirty or tell a joke that like feels like it's an older brother telling you something that you shouldn't.
Right.
That's always been the kind of the vibe I've gone for with anything I write. Humorous, like this is like, again, looks kind of like a kid's book. I wouldn't say your kid couldn't read it, but he might see the word shit in it somewhere or something. That was funny to me.
I feel like these books, I feel like it's definitely like the Mad Magazine audience, which was maybe like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, and
12-year-old.
It's kind of like the golden spot. I mean, that's when I really fell in love with.
Yeah, I started. My dad was a big Mad fan, so he had a bunch of the old Mad books and stuff around the house that I got into really young, and I have one right here. One of the really old collections. This is
He is now showing us a
Holly Unsaturated Mad, which is a collection of this is one of the books. This is book number 31, and this was from 1965. And I have this, and it's a great collection. That was all just stuff from the magazine, but I loved it because it wasn't bad, it wasn't dirty, it wasn't mean, but it had an edge. And it had just enough of an edge with the humor that you felt like you weren't supposed to be reading it,
See,
and that's kind of the fun.
That's why I didn't read Mad. I went right to the Lampoon.
Did you?
Oh yeah, Mad Magazine. I appreciated the effort, I guess, but I went right to the Lampoon. I mean, I just had to go there.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were?
I was 9.
Really?
I put down my Henry Miller. And I said, "This is good." No, I gravitated toward questionable content at a very early age, and I put them out.
I mean, that era was really good for me. And then early Lampoon and the underground cartoonists. I mean, I started picking up on that stuff as well. Like I got really into around 8 years old.
Yeah,
I first started reading like Mad Magazine, and I love that because again, it kind of flirts with a little bit of dirty humor. But then if you'd read like a Robert Crumb or a National Lampoon at that age, I found it'd be a little much sometimes. It was like,
oh yeah, Robert Crumb. We can't even talk about that. Can't go there, man.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. So then, I kind of retreated back in the Mad for a few more years and then came back to that and then went past it, I think. Like, I think high school and university is when like National Lampoon was like the ultimate. I found a big collection for like $2 a copy.
Oh yeah.
So that, I kind of gorged on it.
Well, no, I'm gonna defend Lampoon because they didn't have to. One of my great heroes was a fellow Canadian, Mr. Bruce McCall, and his stuff was just, it was his own little, it was his world, his expansive world of overwrought Americanism. But he was, he was too sophisticated for Mad, but not, I don't know, obscene.
What, Bruce McCall? He did beautiful covers for Lampoon.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I'm saying. But I mean, his work was not of a prurient.
Yeah. This is holding up. This is a this is a Lampoon I have. This is the Leonardo da Vinci's Undiscovered Notebook cover. So this is a Rick Marowitz, the Mona Gorilla.
Yes.
Oh, that's a classic magazine.
Oh, the greatest thing ever published was the National Lampoon yearbook parody.
Yeah, that was great. The high school yearbook parody. Yeah, definitely. And then that turned into what became Animal House. They used that as the basis. A lot of the characters from that yearbook parody, if you look at the names, it's the same names as characters in Animal House because they took that book, they mixed it with Chris Miller's college story experiences that he would write about in Lampoon, which is like his frat days. And then they melded it together.
Then just add a vast amount of cocaine, and there you go.
And there you go. Put a bunch of people up in Oregon for a couple of weeks, and you've got yourself a movie.
Can we do a quick pause? I got to run to the bathroom. I got to bladder over a little girl and been chugging back coffee before I started.
You can run to the bathroom, and then we'll come back, and then we'll wrap it up and let you go.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
I'm looking forward. Hold on.
This is a pristine magazine copy that I have here. This is in plastic. I got this on eBay. When I was at Lampoon, they had a terrible archive. They had like nothing.
Yeah.
And I was there for 13 years, and they would never have anything if we needed it. So I would just constantly have to go online and find it on eBay. So I bought so many of these issues that I needed like pristine, scannable parts that I had to find, because they never had the original printing plates. Maddie and all of they like lost the printing plates of the magazine.
They were out here somewhere, man.
Yeah, they like lost them. When they moved offices, they moved to Los Angeles, they just like lost all of this stuff. And they had all the magazines. In the old days, you would have an archive, and it would be the actual print plate that you would make the magazine from. And they had it at some point, and then it went away. And all the other magazines, like the Esquires and the stuff, the old New Yorkers, like all these old magazines, took their printing plates and they used them to make online digital archives that then they could sell subscriptions to, and people would buy them. And Lampoon tried to do that. And I was like scanning in old magazines as high DPI as I could, and they were like, these look terrible.
What happened with that dopey poison pill thing they were pushing for a while? Did you see that?
Yeah, they were trying to do some NFT stuff and crypto stuff, and it didn't go anywhere. They got into it right when it was all bottoming out anyway, so it didn't matter.
So the Lampoon exists as someone owns the copyright, not the copyright, but the trademark, the name.
Just recently, it just changed hands again, and I'm actually going out to meet with the people that are running or own the majority of the company now. So I'm actually going to Los Angeles Tuesday. I'm flying in. There's a book event. There's a book event for a book I have coming out that just came out called Attack of the Rom-Com with Marty Nelson as the author, and there's a comedy show at a book store called Ripped Bodice in Culver City, California.
Wow.
We're going to Ripped Bodice for a comedy night, and we're featuring this book, Attack of the Rom-Com. I'm going to be out in Los Angeles. I'm seeing some of the guys. Brandon Hicks, I'm going to L.A. next week for some events. We have a book event for a book that came out called Attack of the Rom-Com, and there's a bookstore doing a big event. They're doing a comedy night, and the author, Marty Nelson, who's based in L.A., is going to be there. We're doing some stuff. So I reached out to some of the L.A.-based Weekly Humorist cartoonists, and I'm like, is there any chance you guys are all hanging out this week? I'm going to be there. And Ivan Ehlers was like, we actually just planned to hang out on Saturday afternoon in downtown LA, and this is the information. And I was like, hey, thanks, Ivan. So I think it's going to be like Lars and maybe Diffie, and like there's like a little crew that they always hang out. So I get to.
I mean, even just going to New York to the Rubens, really, like, it's amazing how much people like just to hang out, and they're so friendly. It's like I didn't come from like a smaller community that like we have a little bit of an arts community, but it's more insular, and there's so little pie, and everyone's a little competitive, a lot of nudging elbows and stuff, and so to go and cartoonists just the nicest people. They just like cartoons.
Yeah.
To make people laugh. They like to laugh. They like to, and I think by virtue of, again, like we were saying earlier, every cartoonist draw is so different that it's not even a matter of who's better than another. It's just like, it's such a distinct voice.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of appreciates that.
And you got to meet the famous Jim Davis from Garfield.
I did.
Was there, and he drew you an original Garfield drawing I saw on Instagram.
Now let's see it.
So that needs to go in a frame. That needs to go on the wall. That needs to be preserved because an original Garfield by Jim Davis. Did he sign it?
He signed it, yeah. Best wishes and everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
I also got to meet Bill Plimpton, who has like, I'm a independent animator, so that was huge. Because I mean, him along with Don Hertzfeld and a couple others, I mean, they were like the reason I pursued it or thought it was a possibility.
And Plimpton let you go to his studio, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Because I went, he said, he got a Lifetime Achievement Award and he was still hustling. He was up there. He's like, I'm selling Rochelle art. Come talk to me after. So I did. And I didn't have any money on me at the time. So he's like, yeah, come over to the studio. We'll give you something half price and give you some free art. So we went down. We're planning to go back in New York, but we definitely did for it. And we get there. He just like immediately says, oh, I got to leave for 10 minutes. But like, look around, shuffle through boxes, whatever you want. So we did, feeling kind of awkward, but going through this, milk crates of like original cells, movies that I grew up with, right? And eventually he did come back and we chatted for a bit. And I was able to buy, I don't know how familiar you are with his films, but this cell from...
Yeah. That's great.
I got that and a couple sketches from it.
Is that the one where one eats the other one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They like...
A couple I was like...
They like consume each other's faces.
Yeah.
It was between this. I like this because it's, has both of them on there in the water. But I also wanted... They have one where they blow into each other's heads and their heads expand like balloons.
Sure.
I wanted the guy's head expanded or the woman's head expanded. So in the end, I went with this.
So you came back from the Rubens and you had an original Garfield drawing. You have an original Bill Plimpton painting.
Yeah.
It's great.
Mm-hmm. And I also like Will Henry, who does a great newspaper strip, probably my favorite currently running, Wallace the Brave. And she did a little thing in the notebook and was super friendly.
That's amazing. And did you get to meet Tyson Cole when you were there?
Yes, I did. I had breakfast with him the last day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I saw his story, so I'll tell his story. But his daughter drew a Garfield and he went and got Jim Davis to sign it. I said, work and stuff. It's great for him.
That's great. He's so talented and he's so nice. And
I'm assuming when I'm talking to him, like, because I can be a bit of a chatterbox when you get going, but he just, very quiet, nods, very friendly, and anytime I have a pause, he would venture like, "So what else you do in New York?" I was like, "Well, then I'll launch into something else." So I wish I knew more about him, but he's very, very friendly, and it's great to finally get a chance to meet him in person too.
His cartoons are so funny in similar years, like where they're kind of sweet looking. And then they have this real dark edge to them that is unassuming. And he's, he's just like this, he's just this really nice guy. And some of the stuff he draws is so dark, but so funny, and so consistent. And I love his style. And I think he's a great artist.
He's a bit of a joke machine. Actually, I put my stupid notebook in everybody's face by the end of it. So he also drew it in my notebook.
Cool.
Like a robot that's drawing and it says joke over the side. Very apt for him.
That's wonderful. Do you have any more questions for Brandon Shaw?
I wanted to ask him about poutine, but It's a little late in the game for that.
Well, it's fries with gravy and cheese curds. Good.
Well, it was. We make it all the time. It's because cheese curds is the national fruit or the state fruit of Wisconsin. It's the gravy that throws me off.
Well, actually, here in New Brunswick, we have a different thing. We have Acadians, which are French immigrants, right? Forever ago. And they created the poutine râpé, which is like, it's called poutine, but instead it's a potato that they boil in a sock and they swing around to get a draw. You see a slimy, disgusting mess, and they call that a poutine. They should try it. If you really want to look for the real poutine experience, that's the one to go for.
Thank you.
There you go. Mm-hmm. I think that's great. If people want to they can go to your Instagram and find you at Brandon Hicks. It's cartoons by Hicks? What is it?
At Brandon Hicks Comics.
At Brandon Hicks Comics. And do you have a website?
I've been working on it.
So Instagram is your website. So if you go to Instagram, we can find you there, and you can see all your work there. And if you're going to pick up some of Brandon's books, get them on. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them over at the Barnes and Noble or wherever, and just type in Brandon Hicks. So you can see all of the Demon cartoon books, the 7 Easy Steps to Go to Hell, the History of Human Achievement, and Curses for Christmas. But then also you can see The Fish That Ruined Everything. And then I think you have another book, don't you? Do you have another book?
I do, and That's Not True, which is
That's right.
local tourism book. And I have a couple more coming out soon.
And
also he's a playwright, Shaw. Like, I know, and he does so many things. He's like an award-winning playwright, like such a Renaissance man up there on the border of Maine.
And you kind of have it to be. There's no single industry here that actually makes any money, so you got to do 12 things.
Exactly. And let's not forget your poutine cookbook.
Oh yeah, that's coming along as well.
365 days of poutine.
That would be I would buy that book. If there were 365 different kinds of poutine for every day, that would be amazing. That'd be so many drawings of poutine.
You'd be dead.
Look for it soon.
Look for it soon. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Brandon R. Hicks. What's the R stand for, Brandon?
R.
That's it.
Oh, you're a pirate.
Wow.
Brandon R.
Is it Robert?
Robert.
Okay.
I really wish I had like a cool middle name, like a Rutherford or it's Robert.
You could be B.B. Hicks, which is kind of a cool name.
Yeah.
I felt like a blues guitarist or a romantic novelist. Pick one.
I think when I was in high school, I was always like trying things out. You'd be like, I'll be Bob or Rob for a bit. And now it's Brandon. Brandon Hicks.
Yeah. Or Brandon Hicks.
Brandon Hicks, apparently, on the website.
Yeah.
All right, Sean. So Bob usually ends the show, but
we don't have an ending.
We don't have Bob, so we can.
No, I think in remembrance of harmless Bob, we should just have like a moment of kind of awkward silence in the pod.
So it feels like he was here because there was an awkward silence.
What does he say?
He said,
"So it is written, so it shall be. Go forth and tune some more. This podcast has ended. May truths be with you."
That sounds
good. Did I tell you about the time Michael Palin? He came by and he offered me half his sandwich.
Thank you for listening to the Cartoon Pad. Subscribe and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the Cartoon Pad. And thank you, Michael Shaw. Thank you, Brandon Hicks, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob Eckstein, who's not here, but we'll have you here next time. I hope they let you out of the basement soon. I'm Marty Dundix, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Ta-ta.
Oh.
Bye, Brandon.
Bye-bye.